I'm Newt Bailey, and this is the Conflict Hotline. What you say next can change your world. I'll be hosting the show today, and we'll be focusing on the theme of empathy. Miki Kashtan and Sigal Shoham are away this month. Joining me in the studio today as role players are two members of the Bay NBC Empathy team, Carol Wolfley and Leah Stotland. The theme of the show this month is empathy. So we'll be looking at what is empathy and what are the challenges people face when they try to respond empathically in difficult situations. We'll also have an interview with Judith Katz later in the show about the work of the Bay NBC Connection Project. Now let's take a look at our first scenario, which we've called Endless Monologue. Carol will play Sandra, and Leah will play Sandra's neighbor, Arnold. Let's hear a little bit from Arnold right now.
Sandra, good to see you. I've been meaning to tell you this thing that happened to me the other day. I went to the post office, and there I was in line, and you know how the machines always break down. I just needed to buy some stamps, but the machines always break down. And then I'm in line, and you know they never have enough people up at the counter. And then there's this woman in front of me. She's got a little kid. Her little kid is just running everywhere and bumping into people. And
yes, I think I can see from Carol's face here, if I'm just stop time, that Carol's starting to feel a little overwhelmed and unsure how to respond to this. Is that true?
Yes.
And it's not the first time it's happened either, is it?
Right.
So does this sound familiar to anyone? A situation where you're really not quite sure why the person is saying what they're saying to you and why that is and how to respond to it. Later in the show, in a moment, we'll work with this situation and show you how we can bring greater connection and mutual understanding in a situation like this. Conflict Hotline is a live call-in program about the common challenges that we all face in our relationships at home and in the world, and what awareness and skills we can develop to face those situations more successfully. We're an all-volunteer effort with no budget. We're all affiliated with Bay Area Nonviolent Communication. Tonight, for technical reasons, we're not taking live calls, but you may email us at conflicthotline@baynbc.org with any conflict you have in your life. We may use it in a future show. Now let's see what happens when we bring some consciousness and skills to our opening scenario with Sandra and Arnold. I'm going to go back to Sandra for a moment here and just check in with you, Sandra.
Yes.
We've stopped time, and so what's happening for you as Arnold is saying these things about the post office?
I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable in my body, and I'm starting to want to leave. Yeah.
So you would love for this to be a more comfortable experience than it currently is. Is that true?
Yeah, I'd like to feel present in some way and engaged and like I'm part of the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at the moment you're not having that sense of
No.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you if you're willing to try another question here, which is, what do you think might be happening for Arnold? Like, as the human being that he is, what's going on for him as he's telling you the story? What's he motivated by? How might he be feeling? What's your guess?
Well, I just first of all want to share that in this situation, Arnold would go on for 5 minutes without stopping.
Sure.
And after a while, I can kind of listen for a little bit, but as time continues to pass, I feel less and less connected, and I'm imagining that Arnold is somehow wanting me to know what's going on with him, and somehow that he's feeling like if I know everything that happened at the post office with him, that we'll have some kind of deeper connection, like I will see him and know him.
Right. So this is a very key thing for me. Very often when people are really wanting a sense of being known and really wanting a sense of connection, they will often use more and more words. And typically what I find is that the more words people use, often the less connection they get and the less understanding they get. Does this sound true for you?
Yes.
Yeah. So, having taken stock of the situation in this way that we've stopped time, imagine that you wanted to jump in, to interrupt, you could call it, to start speaking even though Arnold is still speaking. What might you want to say that would be something about what's going on for you, or perhaps asking, perhaps we want to start as we're focused on empathy, is what would it be to show empathy for Arnold right now? What might you want to ask him?
Yeah, you know, it would be hard for me to just jump right into that because I'm noticing that for me, I'm feeling some resentment that Arnold isn't paying attention to me or thinking of me. So first, I need to just deal with my resentment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that you're really wanting to be included in the conversation, to have a sense that you matter in this conversation, something like that. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something you would love to achieve in this conversation, a sense of being included and a sense that you also mattered.
Yeah. It's hard for me to even be present for Arnold until I do that a little bit.
Yeah. So having named it right now for yourself, do you have any greater sense of possibility or willingness to inquire about what's going on for Arnold?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
You found it,
Yes.
you feel willing to stretch a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Arnold to just leap back in and continue, and we'll see what you're going to try.
Good.
Okay? So Arnold.
It's incredible the way people are in line and everywhere they go, and their kids run everywhere and they don't do anything about it, and we're stuck there standing in line. And what can you do? And of course, the people at the desk are so slow. You could lose your mind waiting there. And meanwhile, the people behind me, they're having this fight.
So
I have to listen to that.
Yes.
do you feel ready to jump? Or
I do.
You do. You're
Yes.
just choosing the moment.
I'm not quite sure how to jump.
Ah, okay. So how about this? Something like, Arnold, excuse me, I'd just like to jump in for a moment. Can I just ask you something?
Okay.
Can you try that?
Yes.
So they were fighting. I don't know what was up with them. I mean, people do these things in public. I can't.
Excuse me. I just wanted to jump in for a moment, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hearing that a lot happened today at the post office for you. Is that right?
Oh yeah. I came out of there. I was in such a bad mood. I didn't know.
And it sounds like it was uncomfortable for you at the post office today.
I don't know if uncomfortable is exactly it. It was just like what you always get anyway.
Yeah, kind of frustrating.
Oh my God, yeah.
So I want to just stop time again here, just to give us a bit of a peek into Arnold's interior experience here. What happened for you at this moment when Sandra asked you this question? Was it uncomfortable, frustrating? How did that land for you?
Well, interesting. I actually wanted to go back to the first question when she jumped in, because that was kind of a wake-up.
Ah.
I actually sort of came back present.
You looked startled.
I was startled, but not
Yes.
upset. I was kind of surprised and didn't know what was coming next. But I think I realized in that moment that I hadn't been here, and suddenly I was.
So suddenly you felt more present,
Yeah.
maybe kind of more connected to yourself or more connected to what was happening?
Yeah, in a way that was a little frightening.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but I noticed that. And then when Sandra asked me if I was uncomfortable, yeah, it was definitely a new idea to think of it that way. It just gave me something to think about, and
You took a bit of a turn at that point.
yeah.
This is something which is notable for me, that very often when people are talking in this way, where you're having difficulty connecting with them, it's quite common that they're not particularly connected to themselves and they're not particularly present themselves. So although interruption is often judged as being rude, I find that often to interrupt in the way that Carol did is a service both to Sandra and also to Arnold. It's not interrupting just for oneself, it's interrupting in order to try and recreate connection. So I think we're going to take a break pretty soon. But I just want to check back in with you, Carol, about how this is all sitting with you, this possibility.
I noticed that I felt very relieved to hear you say that it was okay and it helped you to be more present. It was scary for me to do it, and it was scary for me to see the startled part, and what a relief that she was able to hear it and feel more present. It's a gift. So, yeah, thanks.
All right, so let's take a short break. When we come back, I'll be interviewing our special guest, internationally recognized peace activist and nonviolent change agent Judith Katz. During the break, you'll see a video from Edwin Rutsch featuring the NVC Empathy team.
Hi, I'm Edwin Rutsch, and I'm a documentary filmmaker. When I heard Barack Obama talk about a national empathy deficit, I felt inspired to take steps to help build a culture of empathy. I've been researching, interviewing people, gathering stories and insights, and created the most comprehensive internet website about empathy. This past year, I also followed the activities of the Bay NVC Empathy team as it applied the practice of nonviolent communication in real-life situations. The Empathy team is made up of 6 people who made a 3-month commitment to provide an empathic presence to one another and to others at events around the Bay Area. I followed the team's efforts as well as pursued my own personal explorations of looking at the world through other people's eyes. And today is the Tea Party rally. It's April 15th, which is tax day.
We hail from all over the area. We hail from every walk of life.
I'm with Bay Area Nonviolent Communication, and we're here to listen and create dialogue around these issues between different sides of the political spectrum so that we can have civilized conversation and get to learn about each other and create mutual understanding.
The problem with dialogue, with death, so to speak, is that it's one-sided and doesn't sink in many times. So dialogue is fine up to a point.
So we're back from break, and here is Judith Katz. Welcome, Judith.
Hi, Nate.
Good to see you. So you're going to be talking to us a little bit about the Bay NVC Connection project. Is that the title that we're giving it?
Yes.
Yeah. So the first question I have is just what motivated you and the friends that you started it with? What was motivating you to start it?
Well, there's basically a group of friends, and a lot of us, we were feeling some really wanting to address some of the big issues that we saw of the day being, sources of a lot of stimulation for us in terms of, concern for the world, concern for the future, really wanting to have more empowerment around things like, like criminal justice issues, wanting a more sustainable system for, caring when people are hurt or there's some wrong committed.
Mm-hmm.
And, things like, even like environmental issues like climate change or, resource depletion, some of these big issues, like education, how our education system is, we're having challenges.
Sure.
So, so many others too.
And one of the main, am I understanding that one of the main kind of tools or devices that you've used for this is the Empathy team? What's the connection between the Empathy team and the Connection project?
Yeah, well, what started out as the Connection project, and it was kind of like a very diffuse group, a network of NVC practitioners, people who had gone through trainings at Bay Area Nonviolent Communication. And we had a lot of passion for what we had learned. We really wanted to bring it to the world in some way. And so we had a lot of really fun meetings where we got really engaged with, what can we do? And, getting to know each other. And then, the Empathy team was kind of like an outgrowth of that, those meetings. And it was like took about a year for us to actually have like a concrete team of people who were committed.
And what does the team do? What did they? once they were committed and together? Give us an example of how you started.
Well, okay, so we started out, we would go to farmers markets and festivals and just give people empathy. We set up a little table and we would just like, offer to free listening for people without, giving advice or, trying to solve their problem or telling our own stories, just like listening to people, really open-hearted. And then over time, it developed into like a more activist orientation where we would actually go places where there was some kind of stress, like protests and demonstrations. We went to a number of different places where people were really angry. Like we started out, one of the places we went first was the Tea Party demonstration in downtown San Francisco for the Tax Day protest. And
just to be very clear here, in case someone could misunderstand, you were not going in order to protest against the Tea Party or on the same side as the Tea Party people, right?
Totally, right.
So therefore, there you are. What did you actually do?
So we were really there to support everybody in being heard or having a sense of connection. And we would basically be there to offer support in people translating what we heard as like judgments or criticism or blaming, translate that into the language of feelings and needs.
So give me an example of a judgment you might have heard.
Okay, so something like, those lazy people who just, I pay my taxes, I'm a hardworking taxpayer, and, they just like suck off the state,
Okay, so I'll say that, yeah. I'm here to protest about those lazy people who just suck off the state. Not like me, I pay taxes, and that's what people should do, and people who don't do that, they don't deserve anything.
Yeah, so are you feeling really frustrated because...
Yeah, I'm frustrated.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. And is it like you're really wanting everyone to have some responsibility, take responsibility for their lives?
Exactly.
And,
yeah, I'm glad that you're on my side.
Yeah, so that actually brings out a really good point because, people often might think that we're agreeing, or like kind of giving people license to, have, experience of judgment or feeling better than the other person. And the reality is that we're really on everybody's side in terms of we see people, everybody is having value. Their needs, what they feel is important to me. And there's nothing wrong with people's feelings and needs. It's all beautiful. So we're really...
And you're trying to convey that to them in some way without agreeing.
Right.
Without disagreeing, just somehow conveying to them that you personally as a human being have an interest in what's important to them. Is that,
Exactly.
And how do you, I'm interested, how do you handle it if someone actually starts thinking that you're just supporting their position or something? Does that come up?
Yeah, well, actually, it's not really, it's really hard to say, well, it's not, I don't usually tell people that I agree with them. Actually, I don't tell people I agree with them.
Right.
So, one place where this actually comes up is like at the Israel in the Gardens event that we went to. It was very combative because it was just a couple weeks after the Gaza flotilla incident. And there were people actually on both sides in very close proximity to each other, and they were like really in each other's faces, and there was some screaming, and it was high tension right there. And so I actually found myself in the middle kind of mediating situations where, we would go from there would be a person who is on the pro-Palestinian side and a person on the pro-Israeli side, and trying to be on both sides at the same time and to listen and have people listen to one another. And I just found that really challenging because if you give your attention to one party, the other party thinks you're
colluding with them or siding with them.
Or so that's something we're really, working with, that kind of energy.
Right. I'm guessing that this must be getting a lot of attention for you to be doing this. Is that true?
Yeah, we've gotten interest from people, around the country. And, recently we got an inquiry from Stuttgart, Germany. People were really wanting to learn how to do an empathy team because they're having big protests over there because some trees got cut down. And so there was people who were put in the hospital and riots, and so they, you know, were wondering, they'd heard about us, and so we're really wanting to, like, you know, help people develop their own version of the empathy team wherever they are. So
Right. To spread it around the world. And if people wanted to get in touch with you in order to ask about what you're doing, how would they do that?
Oh, I'm at judith@baynbc.org, JUDITH@baynbc.org.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say in the last 10 seconds before we take another break?
Oh, well, the main point is that we're really wanting to, you know, people have needs. Everyone has basic needs, and we just really want to make it a world where people's needs are acknowledged rather than making people right or wrong.
Okay, well, if this was of interest and you'd like to take charge of creating a team like this for yourself, then Judith can help you out with that. So please get in touch with her, judith@baynbc.org. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be working with a situation where Leah will play Fran in a new scenario. So stay with us at the Conflict Hotline, and we'll continue in just a moment.
I am craving flying with the raven, 'cause she takes me between the two worlds. She's got magic in her dark wings, and in her heart lies the blue pearl. I am hungry, and I've got some honey, and it feels good in my mouth. But Mama needs some loving and communion, but I'm left hanging too far south. So I breathe in the air, invoke the water, honor the earth, burn in the fire. Breathe in the air, invoke the water, honor the earth, burn in the fire. It's okay that it turned out this way, 'cause I can always use time for myself. Time to develop self-love as a habit, 'cause you sure can't get that from no one else. So I hang out with my diseases, I can cure them good as Jesus, when I find my own true self. Well, that makes people nervous, but I do it nonetheless, 'cause I think it's what we came here for. We came to breathe in the air, invoke the water, honor the earth.
Welcome back. Now let's take a look at another scenario, which we've called Preparing for Thanksgiving. Leah is going to play Fran. And Fran is aware that at Thanksgiving she's going to be in conversation with her sister Greta. And a certain issue around Fran's health is going to come up, she's pretty sure, because it has done before. And so what Fran's decided to do is something which I heartily recommend, which is rather than waiting for a difficult conversation to start, you can actually prepare in a certain way by first of all getting in touch with how are you feeling about what the subject matter and what are you really wanting to have happen in the conversation, just to try and get clear on that. So I'd like to see what Fran has to say about this. So, Fran.
So yes, I'm imagining that I'm expecting that when I go home, the issue of my health is going to come up. I have an ongoing health concern, and I'm taking care of it in a way that works for me, but my sister really thinks I should be getting a different kind of care. And
so you're content with the way that you're dealing with your health?
Yes, even though I'm not better yet, I believe that I'm doing what's best for it.
I'm guessing that you have given a lot of attention, a lot of thought to this. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Right.
Getting a lot of different kinds of support for it.
And so as you think about this conversation that you're going to be having with Greta, your sister, what's the truth of your current feeling about that?
I guess I'm afraid that I'm just going to sort of cave in because she kind of has science on her side. She comes from the more scientific viewpoint about healthcare.
So you're afraid and you have this image of caving in. And rather than caving in, how would you like it to go? What would be the thing that you would like to see happening then?
I'd really like to be able to hear whatever she has to say without taking it really personally. Just hearing that that's her concern for me, and it doesn't mean I have to believe what she believes.
So you would love to be able to listen to her and to hear what it is that she has to say, and to stay in a place of being connected to what's important for you at the same time, and holding your needs and your values as equally important to her, something like that. Is that true?
Yes, and yes, to be able to hear that she cares about me. That's why she says what she says.
So something about you'd love to be able to hear the caring underneath her words. Yeah. Regardless of how she's speaking and what she's saying.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm asking these questions here rather than just guessing at what's going on for Fran, because sometimes you'll be on your own perhaps preparing for a conversation like this. So I'm just giving these questions to Fran, and they're questions that you can use for yourself if you're preparing for the holidays or some other time when you're expecting a tricky conversation. How am I feeling when I think about this conversation that's going to happen? And what would I love to have happen? Very often we come up most quickly with what we're afraid is going to happen. So just flip that on its head and you'll see what it is that you would like. It's the opposite of what you wouldn't like. So let's see what else is coming up for you. Any other feelings for you when you think about this conversation that you're in touch with?
I guess the concern that I'm going to try and prove that I'm right, which will not work. So I know that that's not going to work.
A feeling of concern, and again, what you're not wanting is this thing you're going to try and prove yourself right. Yeah. So what would be a different way that would look, that would be more to your liking, something you're longing for?
So I guess something like really holding that different viewpoints can exist together. We don't have to agree.
Right, it's like almost an image I'm getting of that there's a certain spaciousness or something in how you can hear the viewpoint and you make space for that, and maybe you'll try and express yours, but you don't have to get agreement. Am I painting the picture in the way that you're thinking of it?
And that's something about really wanting to have enough trust in myself that I don't need to be defensive.
Just to be really in touch with the trust, the self-confidence, the self-trust in the choices that you're making. Yeah. So how does it feel in this moment just to be connecting with those underlying motivations and values of yours?
That's great. That's a really big one for me, the self-trust. Really, it feels like an important thing to bring with me when I go home to my family.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to suggest another part of this preparation that you can do here. And I only want you to try this if you feel willing. If you don't, let's talk about that. But my question is, if you think about switching your attention now to what might be going on with your sister Greta when she talks to you about your health, do you feel willingness to give that some consideration?
Yes.
It's very important not to force this if it's not something that you feel ready to do, but my sense is that it really helps when you actually get into the conversation with the other person if you've tried to think this out in advance. What might be happening with them? So what's your guess?
My guess is that she's really worried about me. She really wants me to be well. And that, that's I think the biggest part. There's also something for her about having scientific knowledge and training and wanting to be able to contribute that to me.
Okay, so two pieces there. You're guessing real concern that she's feeling and just really wanting well-being and health. You know, those are values of hers, and she particularly wants that for you in this situation. And also something about wanting to be able to contribute to that. Yeah. And you said she has a lot of scientific background or something.
Yeah.
So is there some piece in saying that maybe that she wants to be seen for her expertise or something of that sort?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She is an expert in that field, and I guess I have some judgment actually that she expects to be treated that way or expects to be received that way.
Yeah. So as the judgment comes in here, all that signals for me is it's time to go back to Fran, so that Fran can connect with that. So as this judgment comes up, what's going on there for you? What's the feeling which comes up when you think about her expressing her expertise?
I guess it brings up some other family dynamics about her having this medical or scientific training and me not having that, and somehow that creates a dynamic of her being superior or something like that within the family.
And what's the feeling for you?
And so the feeling, well, I guess it's almost like it's a defensiveness, like
some sort of contraction.
Yeah, there's a contraction. There's yeah, definitely a contraction inside. Like I don't want to hear it.
Right. Almost an aversion or something like that. Aversion. And so rather than that, again, what would you love to have happen in the scenario? Something different than what you're describing.
I guess I'd really like to be able to look at her with love for that, like love her for that part of her.
Okay.
Really, because I do love her and care about her, and
just to be in touch with the love that you feel for your sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to feel that love and be in touch with that love, regardless of what she's expressing, even if she's expressing this area of expertise which can be triggering for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So how now at this moment is this for you to have sort of done this little bit of work on yourself and then looped over to her and back to yourself again? Like,
I'm actually feeling excited. I want to get into it.
You're feeling excited?
I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it may be, we're going to get into it in a moment with Greta. We'll bring Carol on stage to play Greta. And possibly what we saw in the first scenario today may be relevant again here. There may be some interrupting that has to happen. So we'll see whether or not there's a repetition of that skill and see where we go after that. We're now going to show, we're going to take a break right now, excuse me, and we'll be back with the meeting of Fran and Greta in just a moment.
I am craving, flying with the raven.
Okay, we're now going to show you a scenario which we're calling You Need to See a Doctor, with Leah again as Fran and Carol playing her sister Greta. So let's just briefly see the way that this conversation has gone in the past, first of all. Let's just show you how that looks.
You're looking tired, dear.
Yeah, I am tired. I'm going to take a little break.
Yeah. I wondered, did you see the doctor yet? And you have
You know that I don't like doctors. I don't like going to doctors. I go to my chiropractor. I go to my acupuncturist. I have supplements that I'm taking. I'm doing a lot better, but I just get tired sometimes.
I know you think that stuff works, but I just want to see you get a good evaluation, a general, blood work, maybe some imaging. Go to your GP, and then what they can do all kinds of diagnostic
All they're going to do is give me drugs or something. I mean, like, what can a doctor do for me?
Okay. So, maybe a familiar situation you may have experienced yourself. You may have been on this side or on this side of this situation. So, let's see if we can have something different happen this time around. And as we saw, Fran did some preparation for this. So Fran's in touch with how she would like to see this conversation go. That's kind of different than the way it's gone before. So what I'm going to do is ask Fran to attempt to use the kind of skills and consciousness we've been playing with here, particularly the skill of empathy, and to respond to Greta with that skill. So let's start again from the top.
Yes, so really, I'm thinking that if you go to your general practitioner and go through a general evaluation with blood work and those things, you can get a really comprehensive view, and then they can pick up exactly what it is, and there's some really solid research.
So, Greta, are you really worried about me?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's been a while.
Yeah.
And I'm just wanting you to have the wealth of resources that are available to you.
So what are you hearing in this second piece?
I'm guessing maybe that I'm having judgment come up. Something like really wanting me to, that you're really wanting me to.
Well, let's work with the judgment.
Okay.
This can happen after all. A judgment can come up out of nowhere, right? So the intention is to connect empathically with Greta and to imagine what's going on for her, and then out of nowhere up comes a judgment. So what I would say to Greta, just to get yourself a little bit of time, let's make this real time, is just say something like, Greta, can I just take a moment to take in what you're saying? Let's try that out, just to give yourself some time.
I just want to take a moment to take in what you're saying. Is that okay?
So now imagine that you have this moment, and Greta can't hear this now.
Right.
But just to revisit again what it was you were saying to me before. So what are you really longing for at this moment? What's the judgment maybe, and we can work from there.
I guess my judgment is that nothing I would be doing would be good enough to take care of my health if I'm not getting the complete medical workup. And I guess there's the self-doubt of maybe I'm not doing enough is coming up. Okay. And I don't want to listen to that because I want to trust myself.
Right. You want to be connected to the trust that you're normally feeling about the process you're going through.
Right. My fear is that if I listen to that voice, I'll lose my sense of self-trust.
Okay. So now, as you obviously you could express that, or you could express something else, and there's the possibility that right now Greta really still wants to be heard. So that's an option that you could go with, is to continue to really just reflect what you're hearing. So imagine that you want to go that way. Do you feel ready to try that again?
I'd like to try it.
Okay. So this is the power of just taking some time to do self-empathy in the moment, just to connect for a moment with yourself and see whether or not that brings you to a place where you're willing to empathize with the other person again. So how might that sound?
Would you give me a line again and see if...
Well, let's say you're coming back from your moment. You can just say, okay,
I've just had my moment.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. All right, maybe I need another moment. I'm still, as soon as I start to think about what she was just saying, I get a little upset again.
Is it the same upset, or is it something different now coming up?
I guess what's coming up now is that the sense that if I tried to empathize with what she's saying, I'm not being true to what's going on for me in this moment.
Okay.
Like maybe there's something else I want to say.
Right. So something about you really want to make sure that you're heard for what's important for you. And you don't want to give up on your own self-expression and your own authenticity.
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, clearly you could go with that right now. You could express exactly what's there for you. My fear, though, is that Greta's not in a place where she particularly wants to hear that.
Right.
We saw what happened before and what's happened in the past.
Right.
So you could do it to meet that need for authenticity right now, but you wouldn't necessarily get a sense of really being heard.
Right.
She may not be ready to empathize with you.
Right.
So again, there's no should here. You don't have to do this. But it's sometimes way more likely to lead to connection if you can take a few waves of empathy, respond to a few waves of whatever Greta's saying with empathy. And one way to do this, as you come back in from a pause that I sometimes use, is just to say, okay, I've taken a break to take in what you were saying before. Could you say a little bit more about that? Just so you hear a little bit more about what's going on for Greta. Do you want to try doing that? Just to ask her, invite a little bit more, if you feel ready to try.
All right. Greta, would you tell me a little bit more about what you're thinking about that right now?
Well, you know, friend, I'm just baffled at, like, what are you thinking? Just like, what are you thinking? You're sick, you need medical care, and you're doing all this other stuff, and I can't figure out what it is or what, I mean, where do you get these people?
And you really want me to have good quality care from responsible people. Is that it?
Yeah, like research. I want research that shows, because, I mean, anybody can say anything. And I just can't understand your thinking.
There's something about the choices I'm making that don't seem safe to you. Is that it?
They don't seem logical to me.
And so you're actually mystified about, like, who I even am to make these kind of choices, it sounds like. It's confusing.
I just don't understand.
Wow, yeah. It's like, who did my sister become, or something like that? Like, who?
Yeah, like, how did that happen?
Wow, yeah.
We used to go to the doctor when we were little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, it's just
Get sick,
right.
you go to the doctor.
So I'm going to jump in for a moment. I'm just wanting to check with you now. There were some waves coming here, right?
Yeah.
And you were just reflecting the best you could. Just what's Greta's experience here? So I just want to check in with you. You know, we have another couple of minutes here. How are you doing right now, having done that?
That was great. Like that was great. It was fun, actually, in a way. Like I let go of. Somehow I let go of what my agenda was, and we were just talking about us. And that felt really good.
How about for you, inside Greta's experience, what was this like?
Yeah, it's like she seemed to hear me a little bit for the first time. Like I felt like she was kind of understanding that this is really mystifying for me.
So it was like the glimmer of the beginning of a more connection than you've had before about this. Is that true?
Yeah. No clarity, but still
right.
A possibility.
Yeah, more to do still.
A little space.
Yeah, maybe some more waves. Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a break right now, and a very small break, and we'll be rejoining you in just a moment.
But it does not matter anyway. No, it does not matter anyway.
So we actually have some more minutes in which to work with Fran and Greta, I'm glad to say. So, and the last thing that we were just getting to was that there was the glimmering at the beginning of some kind of a connection here. And I'd like to just pursue this a little bit further and see what else happens. So I jumped in. There was a lot of empathy happening from you. You were getting quite excited. And so it seems to me like maybe we can, if you're remembering where you were, we can just start from that place. And
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I mean, I'm genuinely curious now about your thinking. And
wow, okay. It's like,
so it's
guess
an invitation.
it is.
It's an invitation, and what I would say about this is any invitation to switch out of empathy in a tense situation can be taken. And all I would suggest is, whoever you're talking to, watch them very closely, because they may need more empathy in 10 seconds time or in 1 minute's time or something like that. So there's an invitation for you to express what's going on for you, and just watch very closely here what's happening, and see whether or not you sense that she would like to be heard some more, and then be ready to switch back into empathy. So let's see what happens if you express a little bit what's going on for you.
Okay. I guess actually the first thing I would say is I'm a little nervous talking about it, because I'm not sure I can express it in a way that you won't have a lot of judgment about. Actually, you may still have judgment about it however I express it. So, so I guess how is it to hear that?
a little sad. A little sad because we're sisters, and I kind of wish that, you know, we could see things the same way. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's sad that we have seemed to not be as much on the same wavelength as maybe we might have been in the past. Or
Yeah. I mean, it's also inconceivable for me that I could not be right. At the same time, I mean, there's just like one little voice back there that goes, well, wait a minute, maybe she has something to say. I mean, but I'm resting on, you know, 500 years of scientific thought and research. And so I'm wanting to rest on the predictability and the companies that represent that predictability.
right. So there's really something for you about that. There's something sort of solid and safe for you about that, the research and the science that gives you comfort and hope about healing.
Yeah, this other stuff is actually very foreign. I know you've been living in the Bay Area, and there's all kinds of different things, and that's like not something I'm so familiar with.
So I'm wanting to check in. There was a little bit of a jab there about the Bay Area. And this can happen, you know, little jabs can happen. So how was that for you to receive that? I know you noticed it, I think, but how are you doing with that?
I noticed it, but I, let's see. I think I didn't take it personally, I guess is what happened. You know, I heard it, and I see the truth in it, and the part of it that isn't, you know, that doesn't say anything about who I am. So
what I'm noticing in a certain way, just to flash back back to earlier in the show, when you were painting the picture of how you wanted things to be, and we kind of got in touch with this desire that you had for a certain sense of spaciousness, you know, as you said, to not be taking things personally, so to be able to just hear and listen and express your own, and that seems to be happening right now. So I'm just...
Pretty much, yeah.
So how does it feel for you to notice that in this moment that's taking place?
It's sort of surprising, and I don't know at any moment when it's going to break, kind of, or when, you know, when I won't be able to stay in that place. But yeah, it's very different to even experience it than to just imagine experiencing it.
Right.
It's different.
Right. Yeah. This is one of the. There's no way of really trusting this until you try it. But it's astonishing sometimes how if you put the time in, as Fran did, into kind of really getting clear on what it was that she wanted in this conversation, you may be very astonished to find that the conversation goes in the direction that you would like it to go. I hear this from people that I work with all the time. So I'm heartily encouraging you to give this a try, of course. So, what next? Greta, how are you doing over here?
Yeah, I'm just noticing, just feeling a little unsure of everything and wanting to have clarity and yeah, have clarity.
Okay.
I guess well, the first thing I'm noticing is somehow wanting to reassure you. When you said that you were unsure, I felt protective. Like I wanted you to feel comfortable and safe.
Wow, that's very surprising.
Surprising to me too, but
yeah,
it's true.
It's surprising. I noticed that I'm less thinking about research and statistics, and I'm more seeing you as a human being. And just hearing about your feelings kind of shifts me into something different than my analysis of pharmaceutical information.
Wow. That's a big relief, just to know that that's possible.
It's very sad for me.
It's sad?
Because it's very unusual for me to go there.
So thank you both for taking the time to play this out. We're coming to the end of our time together, and I'm just noticing what's kind of stood out for me today in the show. And I think what stands out for me particularly is how even if a person is talking about facts and figures and science, if it's important enough for them to talk about, there is something there for them which is truly important. Like in this case, safety. It's the sense of safety that comes from the 500 years of research and science. And if we can connect with that, then out of that can come this connection which we're seeing here. I'm wondering if there's anything that stood out for either of you in the whole show, not just in the last piece, but...
Well, just in this bit, that amazing moment when I realized that we had made a connection on more of a heart level, and I somehow hadn't been trusting that would happen, and suddenly it did.
Yeah. And there was some vulnerability in it, and some unfamiliarity, but a beauty to it.
All right. Thank you. This is the end of the show this evening. And if you liked what you saw today and you'll move to want to learn these tools, these skills for yourself, call Bay Area Nonviolent Communication or look at our website, baynbc.org, for opportunities to train with myself and with other trainers. Our contact information is repeated at the end of this program. Also, we want to hear your feedback. We continue to experiment with the format and the content of the show each month. So please send us your comments or scenarios you'd like us to play with. And send that to conflicthotline@baynbc.org. Before we go, we want to thank, of course, Carol and Leah for joining this evening, and Judith Katz for joining us for her interview, and also the crew and production team, all of whom are volunteering to support this program. And our greatest gratitude goes to the many people who send in their scenarios and requests to us to make the show rich and meaningful for us, and hopefully to all of you. I hope you'll join us again next month on December 2nd for another hour of the Conflict Hotline. We're on the air live the first Thursday of every month at 7:30 p.m. You can also see the show on the YouTube channel, on BayNBC's YouTube channel. Until next time, I'm Newt Bailey. Thank you and good night.
I take a deep, dark breath of my fear. Breathe out compassion to myself. I take a deep, dark breath of your fear. Breathe out compassion to you. And the next breath is for all the people who can relate to me and you. You cannot see eye to eye. Won't you step up with me and try? Drop the fences down, find a common ground, and take a deep breath.